Well, 8 centuries ago, it was a wave of crusades that shaped the modern-day Middle East. In 2025, with Israel taking center stage, the region remains in turmoil. In this complicated backdrop, the future of Gaza has once again divided the global powers. The latest chapter in this regional saga unfolds with the proposed International Stabilization Force. But threats to this dangerous crusades are not of religious fervor, but of inaction. And Israel has already raised the alarm in front of the whole world. Danon, Israel's ambassador to the United States, minced no words when he said, unless the ISF is constructed with teeth and accountability, unlike anything the international community has managed before, it will become yet another monument of diplomatic ambitions buried under decades of impotence. Well, his problem is with the so-called blue helmets. When Danon cautioned against the ISF becoming another UNIFIL, he was referring to the peacekeeping mission that has become synonymous with failure. With troops from across the world, these UN peacekeepers have barely held the line against a flood of horrors in the war and also in the disaster-riddled region. UNIFIL, the UN Interim Forces Lebanon, established in 1978, has presided over southern Lebanon for nearly 5 decades. The force was supposedly bolstered after the 2006 war between Israel and Hezbollah through UN Security Council Resolution of 1701, tasked with 3 fundamental objectives: assisting Lebanese armed forces in maintaining a demilitarized zone, preventing Hezbollah from military buildup, and also maintaining a ceasefire. But it accomplished none of these. Danon says the Israel UNIFIL became a willing participant instead of preventing Hezbollah's militarization. However, the fact is, when this peacekeeping force does take steps to limit or document Hezbollah activities, it was faced with attacks, and the international community has continued to turn a blind eye. Danon's criticism may be valid, but it forgets that the same Israel has also struck UNIFIL as per credible reports. This history builds Danon's firm conditions for the Gaza ISF. Well, for Israel, success is not measured in diplomatic necessities or UN mandates framed in bureaucratic language. It is defined entirely by results: the complete disarmament of Hamas and the destruction of the tunnel infrastructure. These are not aspirational goals to be gradually worked towards over decades. They are non-negotiable prerequisites. Danon recognized that the ISF, if constructed like the UNIFIL, would become what he termed a blue helmet operation, where international troops would patrol and file reports while Hamas reconstitutes itself, precisely as Hezbollah did in Lebanon. The international community's paralysis in southern Lebanon created the condition for October 2024 escalation. Well, Danon is determined this pattern not to be replicated in Gaza. Well, the fundamental flaws in UNIFIL's design was not its intention but its power. The force was never meant to go to war. When faced with Hezbollah's refusal to surrender weapons, when confronted with military positions creeping close to Israeli communities, the force had no enforcement mechanism beyond escalating complaints to the Security Council, which itself had become a theatre of competing interests rather than a forum for decisive action. Well, for Israel, the ISF must be authorized not merely to observe disarmament, but to compel it, to destroy weapons cache, to prevent military reorganization, and critically, to respond with force if necessary to violate of its mandate. Furthermore, the force's ability to operate without the constant constraint of Israeli compliance requires coordination mechanism that UNIFIL never possessed. The resolution establishes what has been termed as Civilian Military Coordination Center, involving multinational participation and, most importantly, direct Israeli ISF coordination, assuring that the force does not become an obstacle to Israel's security imperative. This is the inverse of UNIFIL structure, where the Lebanese government theoretically held authority but exercised little practical control. Danon's warning against becoming another UNIFIL is ultimately a plea for institutional competence in an environment where failure is not an option. The ISF must succeed where UNIFIL fail, or it will join that long historic line of foreign intervention that promised stability and delivered only entrenchment of the very problem they sought to resolve.